Hi, I'm Lindsay, and I'm a senior intelligence analyst here at CB Insights. And today we're talking about the future of wealth and investing and how do you win the next generation of investor. Now, when you think about saving and your retirement, I bet things like a 401k, an IRA, and a pension might come to mind. Maybe you're even investing in the market, own stocks, bonds. But have you considered owning a fraction of a securitized 1980 Lamborghini Countach Turbo? Well, believe it or not, all of this is possible and is being driven by fintech. Today, we're going to talk about the ways that new fintech insurgents are entering this market using technology to build this market, build new products, and monetize in different ways. We'll also talk about opportunities for insurgents to strike back. Bill Gates once said, "We overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years, but underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. And what incumbents have drastically overestimated is how fast this market is changing and ways in which they're being disrupted by technology. If we use E-Trade as an example, it's taken them about 4 decades to cross 3.7 million customers. In contrast, it's only taken Robinhood 3 years to cross 6 million users. Technology has opened up this market. We see new and innovative ways for technology insurgents to leverage this new and innovative way of thinking about how to acquire customers. And it matters because wealth is changing fast. We are going through a once-in-a-lifetime generational shift in wealth, where by 2030, millennials will hold 5 times as much wealth as they do today. It matters because Robinhood and other fintech insurgents are entering this market, getting ahead of this wealth transfer, and knowing that they can keep these customers retained ahead of when they get wealthy. We know this because we've heard from new fintech CEOs on this stage about their strategy of acquiring millennial investors. Meanwhile, if you look at the earnings calls data, we can see incumbents just aren't thinking about it the same way. And this matters because this is the wrong strategy. It's wrong because if you want to win, you want to benchmark yourself against the best. What are some of those benchmarks? Well, if we return to the earnings calls data, we can see that digital and mobile banking have been on the rise. In the last 5 years, it's been mentioned over 2,400 times. Banks are following a digital mobile strategy rather than a customer-centric model similar to the fintechs. What has resulted is them launching a bunch of fintech apps hoping that one would land. But what they miss on is a core customer acquisition element, experience. This is where we see banks getting into trouble. If you look at a new insurgent, Square, they've acquired 15 million users and have reached the top of the App Store. This is unheard of for a finance app. And it matters because they're setting the customer experience bar very high. And it's unprecedented for us to see this happening so quickly. We see that incumbents just aren't matching how we want to be serviced in this market. But what we can also see is that fintechs maintain really high engagement on their apps. If we look at JP Morgan as an example, we don't want to see you benchmark against what hasn't worked. They invested 2 years in building out Fin and shuttered it after just 1 year in the market. While consumers were actively investing in crypto, we saw Coinbase reach 20 million users in just a short amount of time. And it matters because these incumbents are getting disrupted in a way in which they haven't thought about before. They need to be paying attention to where consumers are going, and what they want access to is the next hot thing, with or without you. And we want you to thrive in this market, so we think that you can use technology to grow it. Our first strategy that we're going to talk about is using technology to open up the market to new assets and new demographics. Fintechs are experimenting with new asset classes. They're bringing this to Gen Z and millennials ahead of the time in which they're inheriting wealth. We see them bringing sneakers online, using new business models like fractional ownership. Rally Road is an example of a company building a new investment marketplace. They're securitizing cars and issuing them into a different securities exchange. In 5 months, they've filled their first IPO. Fast forward just 2 years, it took them only 3 minutes. They blend another element we discussed, experience. They bring these assets to life in a physical storefront in Soho. In 2019, you'd be hard-pressed to get a millennial to willingly walk into a bank branch. But an open storefront with a stunning asset on display is open season on your customer base. Next-gen wealth management platforms are also segmenting the market by niche and demographic. They're playing to things like environment, social, and governance data and bringing impact investing to millennials. We also see an opportunity to close gap in gender investing. We'll hear from CEO and founder of Ellevest, Sally Krawcheck next, who's going to talk to us about how they're leveraging technology to open the market for gender investing. So we talked about the market. Now let's talk about ways that insurgents are using technology to market to these new millennial investors and bring new products to the market. We've seen businesses employ a monoline strategy, and now increasingly they're moving to a multi-line strategy. They're doing this because they're rebundling products and services ahead of their maturing customer base. Large customer bases are being built across every financial service. However, we do see opportunities like in financial planning. Because of technology, all of these can be an acquisition channel for you. Fintechs are also doing this by unbundling the paycheck, for example. We see them working with employers to bring access to new investment opportunities and target things like student loan payoff and early income advance, because these are the things that they want to get access to when they're getting their first forms of income. Another tactic we've seen work is fintechs using gamification to attract users. Robinhood uses a sign-up list to give users priority access to products. They do a customer referral program, and it boosts their ability to get access to the product in advance. One of the most attractive has been, of course, crypto. Insurgents that launched crypto saw a spike in user adoption. And what's interesting is that a lot of the times, these are first-time investors. First-time investors are also flocking to mobile wallets and debit cards. This is being enabled by partnerships with community banks. But if you look at the landscape, what's shocking is it's not just fintechs that are in this market anymore. It's technology companies, Uber, Apple, Amazon, things that resonate with this customer base. SoFi has been the most aggressive at rebundling the bank. This year, we saw them launch free trading, in-house ETFs, partnerships with Lemonade, and they have a debit card. Square has been the most successful in customer engagement. In just a year after launching the Cash Card, we saw monthly spend top $300 million. They're also using instant rewards programs to attract spend, and they target categories like coffee and groceries. Acorns and Stash, the micro-investing apps, are using a blend of gamification and rewards. They're using their debit cards rewards program to promote investing. The Stash Stockback program gives users access to a portfolio of stocks that is tied to the debit card. While Stash and Acorns are targeting the up-and-coming generations of wealth, Morgan Stanley and incumbents are taking notice of the higher end. Morgan Stanley acquired Solium, a cap table management company, for $900 million. This will give them access to future millennial millionaires and an opportunity to cross-sell wealth management services. We'll also hear from Henry Ward, the CEO of Carta Next, and it'll be interesting to hear how he thinks about secondaries and enabling liquidity for pre-IPO companies. So we talked about the market, and we talked about iterating on product. Let's talk about our third element, monetization, where the fintech playbook has been to grow your user base and profit later. Startups gain an edge by undercutting incumbents on fees. We've seen incumbents launch digital strategies. However, they're unwilling to compete on price or minimum. Meanwhile, new insurgents are entering the market, employing new business models like subscription. They'll even do things that look irrational, like give up profits to attract the young, scrappy, and hungry. They'll use things like high-yield savings as a loss leader to acquire customers and figure out other ways to make money, like on interchange or savings. Meanwhile, incumbents are still unwilling to give up the old ways of making profits on bank account fees and overdraft fees. Like it or not, change is here. Because remember, a lot can happen in 2 years, where we can see a fintech overtake a 40-year-old incumbent. But we believe there's opportunities for you to use technology to open the market, bring new products online, and rethink the way that we make money on businesses. And as my good friend Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try. If you're curious about any of the topics, I'd love to talk to you, so please find me on Umbrella and refer to some of the research that me and the team have been working on. Thank you.